hello, welcome back. My name is Kim. I hope you're doing well lately, and today we are going to be talking about the very first book that I read this year. Historically, the very first book that I read every year always tends to go really well, and this one did not disappoint either. It is Orbital by Samantha Harvey. After I finished reading this book, I went on Storycraft just to get a grasp for what other people were thinking about this book, see the general perception of it. There was one review that I saw online that perfectly, succinctly summarizes this book, and it's a 4-star review. It says, "This is a beautifully written book, but you should know ahead of time that nothing happens." There are 6 characters that you do kind of sort of get introduced to, but they're not the main focus of the story. There's really no plot either within this. The characters are almost secondary or even tertiary to Harvey's writing and the observations of Earth, what it means to be human, the human experience. And honestly, this almost read like Harvey woke up and just decided that whoever reads this gets an existential crisis. But an existential crisis that was like wrapped in a warm hug and with really beautiful writing. Harvey's writing is really just like the star of the show here. And it's almost meditative and stream of consciousness. And not stream of consciousness from a character, but Harvey's stream of consciousness. It's almost like she's just put the characters in there. They obviously serve a purpose when they have their part in this book. But really, it's almost like they're put in there so the reader can tangibly grasp onto something that makes sense to them. Because what Harvey talks about in this book and what she writes about it's just like, the word that keeps coming to mind is unfathomable. But I wanted to share some of the writing from Harvey's book to give you a good idea as to what to expect going into this. So when I was mentioning before about that like vastness of space and just like the never-ending like blackness that is just completely undiscovered, that, you know, we just haven't even fathomed its extent of how far it goes. Like, it's not, space isn't a little block, like a little room, which I just kind of think of like sometimes space. Oh, it's space, like it's out there, but it's really out there. And so there was a part in here where Nell, who is one of the characters that we occasionally hear from in here, she goes outside of the space station, so she's like in her spacesuit and everything because she and her colleague have to fix something outside of the spacecraft. And so she's thinking about floating in space and how it feels like flying, but then also there's this really good writing about like just the vastness of space and just how like unfathomable how big it really is. It is hard to believe the quality of blackness that is the entirety of space around a daylit Earth, where the Earth absorbs all the light, yet hard to believe in anything but blackness, which is alive and breathing and beckoning. If Nell had ever been afraid of nothingness, once she was in it, she was consoled by it inexplicably and yearned. If she yearned for anything out there, to drift into it and for her tether to reel out some thousands of miles. There's also quite a bit written about the essentials of being human, owning items that really don't have a point, and the concept of time. So time is completely thrown out the window when they're in the spacecraft, and there's this portion here that really summarizes that quite well. They feel space trying to rid them of the notion of days. It says, "What's a day?" They insist it's 24 hours, and ground crews keep telling them so, but it takes their 24 hours and throws 16 days and nights at them in return. They cling to their 24-hour clock because it's all the feeble little time-bound body knows, sleep and bowels and all that is leashed to it. But the mind goes free within the first week. The mind is in a dayless freak zone, surfing Earth's hurtling horizon. Day is here, and then they see night coming upon them like the shadow of a cloud racing over a wheat field. 45 minutes later, here comes day again, stamping across the Pacific. Nothing is what they thought it was. Like, that's really wild to me, honestly. Like, their 24 hours, what we consider to be 24 hours, they're experiencing 16 days within that 24 hours. And of course, what is a book about space and reflections on Earth and being human without a conversation about how humans have affected our Earth? In reality, you know, humans are really selfish. That's just human nature. We often think that Earth serves a purpose for us too, when really we should be doing our best to serve our Earth and make sure and retain its beauty. So there was a part where they were reflecting on how beautiful the Earth is from their vantage point and reflecting on when people thought Earth was the center of the universe and everything spun around the planet Earth. Sometimes they look at the Earth and could be tempted to roll back all they know to be true, and to believe instead that it sits, this planet, at the center of everything. It seems so spectacular, so dignified and regal. They could still be led to believe that God himself had dropped it there at the very center of the waltzing universe, and they could forget all those truths men and women had uncovered, via a jerking and stuttering path of discovery, followed by denial, followed by discovery, followed by a cover-up. That the Earth is a piddling speck at the center of nothing. They could think, no negligible thing could shine so bright, no far-hurled, nothing-y satellite could bother itself with these shows of beauty. No paltry rock could arrange such intricacy as fungus and mines. And so I'll jump ahead a little bit. This planet that's been relegated out of the center and into the sidelines, the thing that goes around rather than is gone around, except for by its novel of moon. This thing that harbors we humans who polish the ever larger lenses of our telescope that tell us how ever smaller we are, and we stand there gaping. And in time we come to see that not only are we on the sidelines of the universe, but that it's a universe of sidelines, that there is no center, just a giddy mass of waltzing things, and that perhaps the entirety of our understanding consists of an elaborate and ever-evolving knowledge of our own extraneousness, a bashing away of mankind's ego by the instruments of scientific inquiry until it is, that ego, a shattered edifice that lets light through. Okay, Harvey. It's wild to think that somebody had written this. This is just absolutely insane. It's really, really beautiful. And gotta find it. Here it is. And then we're following along with Sean, who is another person on this spacecraft, and he's thinking about, you know, how they're supposedly writing the future of humanity and just humanity itself, and just kind of like almost like our purpose. How are we writing the future of humanity? We're not writing anything, it's writing us. We're windblown leaves. We think we're the wind, but we're just the leaf. And isn't it strange how everything we do in our capacity as humans only asserts us more as the animals we are? Aren't we so insecure species that we're forever gazing at ourselves and trying to ascertain what makes us different? We great, ingenious, curious beings who pioneer into space and change the future, when really the only thing humans can do that other animals cannot is start fire from nothing. That seems to be the only thing. And granted, it's changed everything, but all the same. We're a few flint strikes ahead of everything else. That's it. Chimps could do it if they watched us and learned, and before you know it, they'd be gathering around fires and migrating to colder climes and cooking their food, and what do you know? Oh man, Harvey just woke up and decided to put the entirety of the human species in their place. Like, I honestly just think that some of this writing was really powerful in its own way and very beautiful. If you're tempted to pick this up, do so. There's a lot that I think anybody can get from this, and this is just things that I took from it, but there's so much more to it that you could probably see online or see other people's reviews on. I am happy that this was the first book that I had read this year. The writing was incredible, even if it was verbose at times, which I think could deter some people. But if you just patiently sit with it, take the time to really read it and absorb it, like you'll appreciate what she's doing in there quite a bit. I'm gonna sit with it a little bit more. When I finished it, I was like, you know what, I think this is a 4-star. But then when I was prepping for this video and I was reading some of the things that I had tabbed in this book, I was like, oh my god, this writing is just so gorgeous and just has so much depth. I was like, maybe it's like a 4.5. I don't know. It's definitely not a 5-star for me because there were portions, I think, again, where I was running out of patience with it a little bit, and the verboseness was just getting to be a bit much for me, but really appreciated everything she did there. I hope sharing some of her writing had convinced you to pick this up, or at least add it to your TBR at some point. Let me know if you've already read it, what your thoughts were on it, or if you read other books from Samantha Harvey, what your thoughts were on those. But thank you very much for hanging out for a little bit. I hope you all are enjoying what you're reading, and have a great day.